Hi everyone, and welcome to the Bade Law Group Immigration Channel. I'm Jennifer Bade, immigration law attorney based out of Boston, and let's get right into it. Today, I would love to discuss with you all the K-1 Fiancé Visa. We get a lot of questions about this visa. What is it? How does it work? Is it faster than a green card? In case people want to get married and they're not really sure if they should stay engaged or if they want to get married. So I'd love to get into all of that today. So the K-1 Fiancé Visa, for any of those of you who watch 90 Day Fiancé, might be a little bit familiar with it. For those that aren't, don't worry, I will cover everything today. So when I meet with clients and we discuss everything, I like to kind of divide this entire process into two steps. To even get to the first step, you have to know that only U.S. citizens are eligible to apply for this status for their foreign fiancés. So if you are a green card holder and you're trying to get your foreign fiancé into the country, you're not going to be able to do that until you actually become a citizen. So you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to apply and sponsor your fiancé for the K-1 Fiancé Visa. So that's first off. So the second part I like to go into is that I divide the application into two steps because it kind of is two steps. The first step is the filing of the form I-129F, which is the petition for alien fiancé. That has to be filed alongside a lot of evidentiary documents with USCIS. So that's filed here from within the US. So let's go over that a little bit, what that looks like, because not only do you have to file the I-129F, but you have to ensure that you include a lot of evidence about the relationship that you and your fiance have. So I'd love to go over just a few things to file with that. So some of those things are birth certificates, so just to kind of prove who you are, especially for U.S. citizens petitioning for their fiancés. You want to prove to the government that you are a U.S. citizen, either if you were born in the U.S. and you have a birth certificate that can show that, or if you're a naturalized citizen, then you're going to want to submit your naturalization certificate alongside the application to prove your status. Then, if either the U.S. citizen or the foreign fiancé have ever been married before, you have to submit evidence of the previous marriages and that they were legally terminated. So in the U.S., that looks like a divorce decree, or if you had an annulment, anything like that. Also, if you had a legal name change, you might want to submit that alongside everything too. Then we generally, for our U.S. citizens, we also include the U.S. passports as additional evidence of their status. And a really important part that needs to be included with the application is a letter of intent to marry. We create templates of these letters for both the U.S. citizen and the foreign fiancé so that they kind of know what the structure is supposed to look like, but they still have to tell the story, of course, in their own words. And basically, the letter is supposed to describe a timeline of your relationship, how you met each other, how you fell in love. It can describe how you got engaged. And then, of course, you have to put in the letter that you do intend to marry each other as soon as the foreign fiancé comes into the country. And then the government also really wants to see a lot of proof of your relationship. So you must have seen each other within the last 2 years. That's a pretty important part. To prove that, you can submit flight itineraries. So if you've visited one another within the past 2 years, you can show, your flight there and then your flight back. If you have hotel receipts from when you visited your foreign fiancé in their country, you can submit those. Any email correspondence, maybe love letters you both have written to one another, that's really helpful. And of course, photographs. So it really helps to label and document the photographs to create a timeline of your relationship to USCIS. So we generally like to submit at least 20 pictures. And we always try to include where the pictures were taken, when they were taken, if there are other people in the pictures, to make sure that you also describe who they are. So the pictures of your timeline together and your relationship together are really, really important. And then also something to remember for U.S. citizens, if you have a criminal record, even for the foreign fiance too, it does have to be disclosed on the application. And depending on your criminal record, there might be some issues that could come up during the application process. So if that's the case, I would recommend talking to an immigration lawyer about your options and just to kind of see how you can navigate that. And then, and that's pretty much the basis of what is required for the first step for the petition. So all of those things are really, really important because USCIS likes to see those in order to say, okay, this is a real relationship. We have a lot of proof here. Let's go ahead and submit it. Now, that can take anywhere from, we've seen it, 8 to 14 months. It can be quicker and it can take longer. I always hate to say the typical "it depends" response when I talk to my clients about this, but it really depends. It depends on the USCIS service center that is processing the application. It can even depend on staffing at the service center. So whichever USCIS agent is assigned to your case might have hundreds of other cases that they have to go through, and perhaps other cases that have been pending for a really long time that might be prioritized over yours. So unfortunately, it does depend. But once it is approved, depending on the country where the foreign fiance is from, things can go quicker than certain green card applications for consular processing purposes. So the second step is basically applying for the actual visa. The first step, once you get the I-129F approved, gets you into the second step. So once you get an approval notice from USCIS for the I-129F, basically USCIS then notifies the National Visa Center, and they are supposed to send your case to the U.S. Embassy closest to your foreign fiance's location in their home country. So basically, the National Visa Center is going to give you a case number, they'll send your petition to the U.S. Embassy, and then they'll mail you a letter or an email with some instructions on how to move forward with the process. And again, depending on the country, that can look all kinds of different ways. Generally, what they will do is they'll send the petitioner, which is a U.S. citizen, and the beneficiary, which is the foreign fiance, both usually an email or a letter with instructions. Those instructions are going to include payment instructions, so basically how you can go ahead and pay the visa fees. And they'll also tell you how to go about the visa scheduling, which generally can be done online. So in order to do all of that, you have to go on the ceac.gov website and complete a DS-160. Once you completed that and you have that filled out, you also have to include evidence of financial support. So we have to include with that the Form I-134. It's a document that explains the financial capabilities of the U.S. citizen to sponsor their foreign fiance. What does that mean? Basically, that means that the U.S. citizen fiance has to make enough money in order to kind of make a promise to the government that says, okay, when my fiance comes here, we understand we have to get married within 90 days. I will take care of her or him or them while they are here and we're going through the process, because the foreign fiance is not going to be allowed to work until the actual green card application is being applied for. So that's later into the process. So it's a promise to the government to show you make enough money in order to sponsor your foreign fiance, and then just proof alongside with that. And that can that proof can involve tax returns from the last 3 years, especially the most recent year is really important. We generally include W-2s or 1099s, depending on what your tax status is and how you were paid. Sometimes we also include letters from our clients' banks concerning the account balances and the duration of the accounts to show they do have the capability to pay. If your pay isn't high enough, you might have a lot of money in savings or investments. So there's a lot of ways to go about that, and if that's confusing or you're not really sure how to go about that, I would also recommend talking to an immigration attorney. We can really kind of break this down for you. We do this all the time. Then once the DS-160 is filled out, all the paperwork is submitted, then you have to print the confirmation page of the completed DS-160. It's going to have a barcode information that has to be presented the day of the interview. Any applicants that show up to the interview without a hard copy of the documents that are required are probably going to be advised to reschedule their appointments. So be sure to read the instructions really, really carefully and make sure that you know exactly what is required of you and what you need to bring. But basically, once you have all of that, you should be able to schedule the interview online. And then once the interview is scheduled, we generally prepare our clients for the interview. We kind of go over some questions that might be asked. We make sure that they have a very, very good understanding of everything that's submitted in the applications, all the evidence that is submitted, because you're probably going to get questions about that. Generally, these officers at the U.S. embassies who conduct these K-1 Fiancé visas of course want to know that you actually know each other, that you actually have a real relationship. So they are going to ask you a lot of questions about the things that you've submitted with your application, about possibly your letters of intent to marry, what that might look like, dates and times when you met each other. So just be really sure to be really, really, really prepared when that happens. And then if your interview goes well, very likely you might find out the day of that you're approved. They will keep the foreign fiancé's passport to add a visa page into it, and then the passport will be returned, and generally they give you about 6 months to come into the country. And once you're in the country, welcome to the US. And then the US citizen fiancé and a foreign fiancé have to get married within 90 days. So that's really, really important, because once the foreign fiancé steps into the US, that 90-day timeline alarm clock starts ticking. So that is really, really important. If you don't get married within 90 days, the foreign fiancé does need to leave the country before the 90 days expires, because that's when the K-1 Fiancé Visa expires. And if they stay beyond that, they might accrue what's called unlawful presence. If that happens, I would also recommend talking to an immigration attorney just to make sure that you're okay and you can navigate certain situations, because you don't want to get in trouble with that. But once you do get married within the 90-day time frame, once you are married, you can pretty much right away file for the green card application. And stay tuned for another video about green card applications, because I will go over the entire process for that as well. But for now, this is pretty much the K-1 Fiancé Visa process in a nutshell. So if you have any questions, any comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section. You're welcome to visit us on our website. We have a lot of good information on there. Also, you are welcome to send us a message. We have a contact form on our website where you can always reach out to us, schedule a consultation, or call us if you have a question. And thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and stay tuned for the next video, and have a wonderful rest of your day.